All right, so if you're doing the fisheries project in QGIS, you first have to download and install the software. So what you should do is just in your web browser, go to qgis.org, and then from the home page, you'll see just the link to download the software. So please, they're going to give you two options here. One is called the long-term release, and one is called the latest release. What you should do is download the long-term release, which right now is version 3.10. Don't download version 3.16. That's just for advanced users because those are most recent features that haven't been fully tested. So version 3.10 or whichever happens to be the long-term release is going to be the version that has gone through the most testing to troubleshoot anything. All right, you download for Windows or Mac. If you're on Windows, you just download this installer. Make sure you're using version 3.10. Depending on which version of Windows you have to do a 64-bit or a 32-bit version. If you're on Mac, you're going to just download the version 3.10. If you happen to have an older version of a Mac that will not install 3.10, then there are some other installers here that you can choose from this website called kingchaos.com. It's totally legit. I've done it before, but for older versions of Mac, you might have to use that one. After you download and install it, this is just on your computer, right? You're going to open it up, and this is the QGIS interface. All right, if you want some nice tutorials just on getting used to the interface, there's tons of things online. What I'm going to do is just jump straight into the assignment here. All right, so you've got your map window here on the right side. You have a browser window here, and you have your layers here. So just real quick, just to get oriented, is that what in ArcGIS, what they call the table of contents, in QGIS, that is the layers window. And what they call the catalog in ArcGIS, QGIS calls the browser. All right, so you've got the software installed. Now let's get your data. Your data for the QGIS assignment, that's on Canvas. Just go right here, download it. It's a zip file. You can, what you should do is to create a new folder on your computer, download the zip file, and then unzip the files that are in this zip file into that new folder. That's just going to make it easier. All right, if you happen to have also looked at the ArcGIS Online assignment, that has a different file setup regarding the zip file structure. So this is a completely different set of instructions here. Once you've got the files downloaded and unzipped on your computer into a folder, then let's start adding some files into our first map. All right, so there's two ways to add files to a map here. One is through the browser window, which is where you just navigate to the folder in which you have files, and you can click and you can drag it and you can drop it down into the layers window or into the map window, and then they're going to automatically display. All right, what we're looking at here is point data of fishing trips that were done in 2004 out of Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. All right, so that's one of our most important data layers that we're going to be using in this project. That's where most of our information is stored. Each one of these points has a lot of information about the boat and the crew. So one thing that I just did was I clicked on the little information toggle here to identify features. You click on a point, and it brings up the attribute table and the information. So this particular point that I picked on, that was a fishing trip for a boat that originated from Boston. It was 68 feet long. The trip was 1 day long. There were 3 crew members on board, and you get some other information too. All right, one thing to know about QGIS is if you want to do that identify features, you have to have the layer selected here for that identify to work. So this comes into play when you got multiple layers here. And you click identify. You've got to make sure that that layer is selected. Okay, you can also right click and remove this layer. It always asks you if that's okay. The other way to add a layer is to go to the layer menu, which you don't see that on top of on top of this video right now, but once you get it installed, you'll see the layer drop down menu, and then you click on that and you go to add layer, and then you can choose if you're going to choose a vector layer or raster layer. In this case, we're going to do vector, and this opens up a dialog box, and if you click on the 3 points right here, you can navigate to your folder that your files are in. And in this case, it shows you all of the component files that go into a shapefile. So an ArcGIS shapefile, that's a proprietary file name. And of course, a shapefile is made up of smaller component files. So in that case, you need to make sure that you're adding the .shp for that layer that you're looking for. So in this case, we've got a few different component files here for the NEC GC304 layer. We want to highlight the .shp version, click open, and then you have to click add, and then the window, if you want to close the window, you can close. You can also keep adding layers if you want to that way. So you get the same thing here.